My name is Danyal, in case you guys don't know me. So I'm a software developer. I've been a developer now like almost 12 years. And I've always been fascinated with the entrepreneurship side of things, building little hobby projects, having my own startup, starting a small business. And so I've been working 9 to 5 pretty much the entire time, but I've always had little things I've been tinkering on. And so I love hearing about the projects you guys are working on. So if you guys ever just need someone to bounce ideas off of, you can always reach out to me. And yeah, at the last meeting, if you were here, I mentioned how we did sort of a rebrand. We launched our brand new website. Essentially, going forward, that's going to be the place to get all of our updates. So there's a newsletter. It's once a week. It'll just give you like a little recap of sort of what happened that week. There's an event or just sharing little tidbits of info here and there. I do use LinkedIn and Meetup for this event, but if I'm being completely honest, those platforms both really suck. And so if you guys really want to stay up to date with this community, this is going to be the best way. So there's a QR code over there. You go to the website. I highly encourage you guys to check that out. And it's a work in progress. This is my side project. So there's always going to be more stuff that's coming soon. Also, we do post event recaps on there, so that'll have all the pictures. If there's any resources that our speaker shares, we'll include those as well. So you guys definitely want to keep an eye out for that. And with that, we're going to introduce our guest speaker. Where's Matt? Let's give him a big hand.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to try to connect to this meeting. Hopefully it goes well. All right. Resolution is a little bit poor, but we'll make it work. I am Matthew Wright. I work here at Rubing. I've been working here since maybe 2022, so roughly 4 years. And I am pretty afraid of public speaking. This is something that I'm working to get over, but that's kind of why I'm here tonight. So this talk is called From Fear to Reflection, How Preparing a Talk Built a Product. This is a screenshot of the product. In July 2025, I was pulled into a meeting. This is called Build in Public. And I was pulled in by this gentleman called Claudio. And I'm listening to people in the meeting. This is a thought leadership meeting. And everyone comes to the meeting with an idea, plans of what they plan to do, things they're working on, blogs, etc. And I came and sat in the meeting and I had nothing to speak to. But no one made me feel bad about it. And following the meeting, or in the meeting, Claudia was like, hey, why don't you start a blog? And I immediately am flooded with dread when he asked me this. Like, I don't know what to say in public, out loud. I keep a journal, but I don't even do that regularly. So he's like, you should do it. And when you go to this meeting and you go to it again, people ask you about the thing that you said you want to do on the last meeting. There's an accountability factor. So I knew before the next meeting came, I had to set up some type of blog somewhere. So I did on Substack. Eventually, Claudio and I decided we would prepare a talk together. And the real purpose and the goal, and this is me speaking on his behalf, was for me to overcome my fear of speaking by having some assistants standing in front of this room talking to people, my colleagues. So we met once a week, every Thursday. We put 30 minutes on the calendar, and it would often turn into an hour. We would sit in this room, put the phone on the table, record the entire meeting, the audio, transcribe it in post, take this transcription, run it through some LLM, extract insights that would give us homework for next week's session. And we just did this over and over. We would record, transcribe, feed to AI, extract the insights, and return prepared for the next meeting. So on paper, this was talk prep, but the transcripts weren't just helping us build a presentation, it was showing us how to think. Claudio has a really well-defined process. Me, on the other hand, I do not. When I show up to do things, especially if I'm asked, I will try to prepare, but because I don't have like well-defined processes, I would often wing it. Or I would try to make a document, a presentation like this, and remember large chunks of it, which isn't good when you're talking to a room of people because sometimes they ask questions and if you have to answer and try to pick up where you left off, it gets nasty. The AI wasn't replacing our thinking, it was reflecting it back to us. In one of these meetings, and I believe this was around September, or maybe before, July, August, Claudio says, I never face a blank page. And I was like, what? What does that mean? And there should be an amendment here because he also said, I never face a blank page anymore. And it's because he's been journaling for 20 years, pretty regularly, over that period. On WordPress, if I'm not mistaken. You may have moved it around or whatever, but you have 20 years of journaling. And you also take very meticulous notes. You have a very organized system. There were some notes in Obsidian. There were notes in this other app. And you promote notes from today to tomorrow if they deserve it. I didn't have any of this process. So one of the things that Claudio said is, if you don't know what to say, if you don't know what to write rather, start with your voice. And that's where we began. The voice removed the editor. So when I would sit down to write, I'm also in therapy. I've been in therapy since maybe right around the time I started working here. I lost my dad in 2017, and it was a really rough time. And when I'm dealing with things that are difficult in my life, I don't lash out. I don't turn to anger. I withdraw. I turn inward. And my girlfriend was not a fan of this because I would not be communicating in times where I needed to. I would not speak up. And one day she sends me a note in a text message. And this note is comprised of a bunch of therapists. And she says, pick one. So I did. I was tired of fighting. I didn't want to not do the therapy or not do it anymore. My attitude about therapy was, why can a stranger tell me more about myself than I already know? I am the person who lives with my experience. I have the most domain knowledge, the expertise of me, and that couldn't be more wrong. Largely it's true. I live with myself, I know what I'm doing day to day, but because I wasn't journaling, I wasn't really tracking what I'm thinking, how I'm feeling. I knew what I was doing, I knew what I ate. I know I went to work the day before, but my moods, my feelings, my thoughts from day to day, or moment to moment either, they were not tracked. So when I was in a state of depression, if you will, I couldn't trace it back to anything in a meaningful way. I could, think of, okay, maybe this moved me to a different mood or whatever, but journaling helped me track where I am from day to day in a really meaningful way. So when we record, there's no editing, no polishing. I pick up the phone or this recording device and I just speak raw and say what I have to say. And the honesty is what really helped me unlock what I was trying to convey in terms of my own emotions. In one of these meetings, one of the things I said is, and this is a revelation I'm having in real time, because when we came in here, while we did have an agenda, while we did have homework, and we were building out a talk each leg at a time, a lot of our meeting time is us just talking to each other. And one of the things that I realized in real time, as it relates to journaling, I said, the only thing I have to bring to the party is my own vulnerability. And for many people here, this may be a very obvious thing. It's like, hey, if you want to do something personal, if you want to do something intimate, there has to be this element of vulnerability. But for me, especially when I sat down to write in a journal, it was not there because I was hiding from myself through the process. When I would write, it would be me focusing on the editing and the formatting instead of getting to the heart of what I'm trying to convey in my journaling. I know this is a talk about this app that I built, but I'm giving you a lead up to how I got there. So the first iteration of Ponderare was called Voice Vault. And I took it to one of the meetings and I showed it off to Claudio. And I'm like, hey, this process that you told me about, your manual process, I tried to streamline it. And how I got there is, I was using Claude at the time in the browser. So I gave it all of the specifications that I wanted in a journaling app, and it gave me a PRD, a document of like the tech stack, the schema, user stories, etc. Then I did this 2 more times because I was like, hey, what if I want to like monetize this? So cost management, time to first insight, things that users care about, mobile first, pricing tiers, success gates. Then to further validate my idea, each month, my manager and I, we meet off-site. We go to this place around the corner called Marini's, and we get empanadas. And I had told him about this app that I was working on, VoiceVault at the time. And he's like, hey, you told me about the app, let's try it. And I was a little nervous because it's like my baby, my toy that I've been building out. And he's like, let's record our conversation and let's see what happens. So I take my phone out, it is loud, we're on an outdoor patio. And we're in the middle of the sun, so my phone is getting hot. I'm nervous that it's not gonna even capture the entire recording. So we get back to work, the recording was fine. I run it through this process, get insights, and I put them in the markdown doc. The app was still early, so it couldn't export anything. So I send him this document, and my manager is Eric. If you know him, he's not a person who's like really easy to impress. And he found it to be remarkable, the quality of the output in this document. And his reaction was very validating because, again, he's not really impressed by a whole lot. But what really impressed him wasn't just the quality of the output, but it was that he could validate everything that was in the output because it was based on a conversation that we had. So if there was anything that was out of place, like a hallucination, or, for example, like it would stand out because he was there for the conversation, assuming he was paying attention. Then comes Ponderare. In Latin, this means to ponder, to reflect. This is not a name I came up with myself. My girlfriend came up with this name. And Ponderare really only exists beyond what VoiceVault became because my girlfriend got involved. And she says, we can really turn this into something. And for me, I like to build toys, and if it works for me, even in a like not so great state, I will continue to use them in that way. I don't really develop things out to something that is user facing. If it works for me, it's cool. But she's like, hey, we can do better. So what it is a mirror that shows you what you're not looking at. What it is, a witness, a memory, a mirror, an invitation, a question. If you have a list of what it is, you must also have a list of what it isn't. So your thinking has an identity. It's not a therapist, it's not a judge, it's not a coach. It is not a productivity tool, nor is it a content factory. You speak, the app transcribes, and then the AI goes to work. Not to summarize, but to see. It quotes your words, notices what's missing, gentleness first, it tracks your patterns, it asks questions, and it is evidence-backed. Anything that we show you in the app, there is a direct link to things that you've said, even a recording. The hidden pattern. The loop we stumbled into during talk prep. What we did, we recorded our conversations, we transcribed and fed it into ChatGPT, extracted insights, found blind spots, and for each thing that we did in our own talk, and in our own preparation for the talk, I created an analog for it in Ponderare. So Ponderare does this voice capturing, it does the real-time transcription with the AI pipeline, blind spot analysis, contradiction mining, etc. There's even a conversation studio because we use Notebook LM. If you haven't used Notebook LM, amazing product. One of the things that we would do with our talks, our talk preparation audio is we would feed the transcript into Notebook LM. There's a debate feature where you can say, hey, take this transcription of everything that we've talked about and argue the different sides of it. So when we come prepared to defend our own positions, we're very prepared because we've heard the other side of it. Notebook LM is a Google product. I'm not promoted or paid to say that, but it's a really good product. I'm not even here to promote Ponderare, to be honest. Like, I'm walking you through my process. What I learned, I started this journey afraid to speak in public. I'm standing here now talking about it. What changed wasn't confidence, it was awareness of myself. The transcripts showed me my own thinking. The AI did not make me smarter, it made me more visible and aware of myself. I thought I was building slides, I was actually building a feedback loop for my own mind. Reflection is a force multiplier. When captured thinking meets structured reflection, the growth accelerates. And this is true in my own life. The more that I do this journaling process, especially the more I do it consistently, and I try to do it every day. Like even if it's a 5-minute recording, I live 17 miles away from here, so the drive can be 30 minutes, depending on what time I leave. And I talk to myself. And that is something I had to grow comfortable doing. I like to listen to music when I'm driving, so I had to interrupt that process to do something that is a little more difficult. Talking to myself and not having anyone talk back to me in that process. And getting home and doing something with that audio. And this is me harkening back to, like later in the picture, this quote that I found in this meeting, in the meeting that we had in this room. The only thing I have to bring to the party is my own vulnerability. That line is the foundation of this product, philosophy, and this talk. I didn't build this app because I saw a market opportunity. I built it because I had no system for learning from my own thoughts. And I think you might need one too. How we build it. This is the fun part. When I would come to Side Project Society, and I've been here for many meetings now, we do this big circle at the end where we talk about what we're working on. And I never really have anything cool to say, or I haven't in the past at least. I would say I'm working on the shed, or I am digging a hole in the backyard that the shed is going to sit on top of once I fill the hole with gravel. But I didn't have any projects, and it was mostly because I didn't have the time to really invest in working on a side project. I'm a father. I have a 4-year-old daughter who will be 5 next week. And it's just really difficult to sit down and build something out to a place where it's usable. I mean, it's fun to work on projects, but I like to build things that I can ultimately use, and I didn't have the time for that until now. And this is mostly because of where AI is. The talk that we were building was a talk about AI resistance. We're in a field where a lot of our identity as software developers is tied to the work that we do. And in some respects, that is under attack because these tools can do what we do in some respects better. This is not to suggest that AI will replace human beings, but it can do a lot of what we've been doing, a lot of what we find value in doing and tying ourselves to in terms of like our own identities. So to build this out, I use 2 tools because I have multiple side projects now that I can build things with AI. Ponderare, of course, creating audio entries, recording, exporting them, and I moved those into another app that I've built called Artie. And this is a more collaborative app. Ponderare is for you. Artie is for us. Like if we were to get together and have a meeting together, I would record that meeting. It's collaborative, multiple voices. It takes whatever we were talking about, creates a transcript, and questions that you might have, or questions that were answered in this conversation, insights, etc. Artie is the collaborative brain. The speaker diarization, that means it knows who said what. It can recognize the distinct voices, and you can assign names to them. Creates executive summaries, group-related conversations and projects, cross-conversation intelligence. So I start in Artie. We can record directly into that app. It will produce a markdown file. I will hand this off to my agents in Claude Code. And there will be a conversation at that level. And I use the product, Ponderare, to create more ideas. And it's just a loop. Meridian. Meridian is a behavioral design agent that transforms features, ideas into psychologically grounded design documents. So this is mostly just a markdown document that understands the philosophy of the application. It's pretty comprehensive. This is probably a 10-minute read, but it reads another document that I have called the North Star, and it asks these questions. What is the genuine human need this serves? What would a thoughtful friend notice? How can this feel like self-discovery and not external judgment? Does this honor the North Star? So if we meet, my girlfriend and I, it's usually, we talk about ideas, or I'll talk to anyone about ideas. I can feed this back into the application and I'll ask a question. I'll say, should this become a feature? and it will run through this process, and it will answer. It will say, sure, here's why, and absolutely not, here's why. If the answer to number 4 is no, the feature does not get designed, period. But Meridian actually changes. And here are real life examples from the code base. Before, you've been avoiding discussing your family. That's metrics driven. After Meridian design, family hasn't come up lately. That might mean something, or it might not. Like, this is not therapy. Maybe this is a precursor to therapy, or if you're in therapy, something that can aid you in that process. But this ain't that. This ain't therapy. Or you expressed relationship concerns in early December. And the North Star aligned version. On December 1st, you said, in this moment, she doesn't like me. That conversation hasn't appeared here since. Did it resolve? This is a real example. Like, my girlfriend doesn't like me all the time. She doesn't. And I struggle with that. And I'm talking in jest, but when you're in a relationship with people, like, you don't like them all the time. This is just a reality. And this is something that you should confront. And I had to confront this, and I journaled about it. I brought her into this process, and we got to have a dialogue about it instead of this rumination that happens, or these thoughts that are happening in isolation. She's having these thoughts, I'm having these thoughts, and we never have a conversation about it. And you know how that goes. Like, this leads to bitterness or something. But because we're able to talk through our problems, and I'm only able to talk about them out loud because I'm talking in my journal about them, ideas surface, and I can turn it into a dialogue with my girlfriend. And if I talk about it in the app, and I don't mention in another entry that it has been resolved, it's going to recognize that. The North Star, this is our Constitution. This is a mirror that shows you what you're not looking at. And the guiding principles, quote their words, notice what's missing, gentleness over confrontation, track over time, ask questions, don't diagnose, and evidence over assertion. What we protect and what we question. This is the process of deciding what makes it into the app versus what does not. We must protect the core mission, voice recording and transcription, blind spot analysis, entity tracking, who's being mentioned, who are they in your life, and a mood analysis, must question. This is where drift lives. Story generation. Does it aestheticizing the pain help healing? Talk builder. Is that a different product? Optimal recording times. Productivity metric, not an insight metric. Without the North Star, every feature sounds reasonable. With it, you can see which ones belong and which ones will not. Where philosophy meets pixels. I have another document for UI, UX, where if I am creating a new feature that requires user-facing design, it must be coherent, because AI will build your feature all day long. And it doesn't necessarily go and look at every other screen in your app before doing this. This means your feature will get created, but it doesn't necessarily fit with everything else that was created in a different session. So in my UX UI doc, I have preferences. It's a complete design guidance document. Witness never judge, depth on demand, time over counts, earn presence, consistent warmth. But there are also things like how much padding should be between sections. What are the card dimensions? What colors should we use? The application has multiple themes.
I have a question.
Yes.
On your earned presence, it says if the user wouldn't miss it, it doesn't belong.
Yes.
Where in fact, I thought that the tool is designed to notice the things that the user may miss.
So if the user wouldn't miss it, it doesn't belong, refers to a feature.
Okay.
If I am considering removing something, for example, there is a criteria that must be met. And I thought your question was going to be, how do you decide what a user wants and doesn't want, especially if this isn't like something that's out in the wild. You haven't been able to receive any feedback about it. First and foremost, I am the user. I dog food this application. I use it every day. So because of this, my voice is outsized. I get to make the decisions. This won't always be the case. Once this is out in the wild and I'm getting feedback from other people, my voice must shrink because I become the minority. The thinking layer. And this is something I covered. Conversations going into Artie, Markdown comes out of it. We do the personal reflection, refine the vision, and iterate. The alignment layer is the North Star, going into the Meridian agent, the design guidance, and the feature specifications. Then we have the building layer, the development agents. I do most of my development in Claude Code. And this code is measured against the North Star. And the output is a product that feels right. If you want AI to build what you actually want, you have to articulate what you care about. This means before, many of you here who use AI understand how it works in terms of you giving it a prompt and there being some output. One possible way to design or to build things is to say, hey, this is my prompt, go and build the thing. I would encourage you not to build in that way. That is what we call vibe coding. And I don't mean that vibe coding is bad, but if you want something that is more sustainable, just have an intermediary step where you do planning first. And after this plan is robust and solid, you then say, go and build the thing. Because I think the plan is solid.
Question?
Yes?
Does that still make sense if you're not technical?
It makes a whole lot of sense if you're not technical. Because let's say, if you're not technical and it spits out a bunch of code and your feature works, that's what you care about the most. Like, even if it says, hey, look at this code, tell me what you think. If you're not technical, you're not gonna have a whole lot of opinions about it. The thing you care about most is, does this feature work in the way that I expect it to? You may not even have the security concerns. And in many cases, if you're building something that is a toy just for you, you don't have to care about that. If it's not something that's going to be living in the wild, you don't have to have the same concerns that you would if this is something that you plan to put into the market.
There was actually, we had a conversation about this a while back.
Yes.
But I think this might be helpful for people that are not technical. They're trying to generate code. Is taking that plan document and running it through another AI and having it evaluate that for blind spots.
That is actually one of my strategies. And there are better ways of doing this, but I'm using Claude Code primarily. I also use Codex. This is OpenAI's product, and they have a CLI for code generation as well. I'll build out a plan, a really robust plan in Claude Code, and I'll say, hey, Codex, look at this plan doc and evaluate it. Once you have evaluated it, you create a response doc. I'll feed the response doc back into Claude Code, and they'll be back and forth, and I'll, of course, have my own opinions that I might inject, and this is a way of making the plan more robust. There are plenty of ways to do this, but that's the strategy that I found to be really effective.
Can I ask a question?
Yes?
Sorry. So you have these intermediary documents, they're like you're planning things, and you mentioned using AI to give you suggestions for how to make it more useful.
Yes.
How often are you going, do you find that you're having to go through that process, and how often, or how quickly do your planning documents drift from necessary context to make the product what you want it to be today, as opposed to when you first started writing?
This is a very good question. And there are many components and factors involved. Today we have Claude 4.6, for example. The context window is about 1 million tokens. So if you want to develop some feature and you also want to have in the same session context of other parts of the application that it needs to know about, having a larger context window means a whole lot. So in the past, when context windows were like 250,000 tokens, you run into issues where it forgets things, especially when the compaction happens. And compacting is, after you exhaust this context window, the session is compacted, which means there's a summary that's created. And it's not comprised of everything that took place in the entirety of the conversation. So it's like, hey, and this is an automatic process. So it's taking what it believes are the most important things from the last conversation or the last session, if you will, and carrying it forward. There are ways around this. One of the things that we found to be very effective is to create our own markdown documents that are intermediary. So things that we care about that we want to be carried forward, we put those in markdown files. And this helps considerably with things like drift. But if you're talking about drift from the feature that you plan and the implementation of it itself, this is where the human needs to be in the loop. So if you're doing like this Ralph loop where you're like, hey, go and do the thing and I'll get back to you a week later, there may be considerable drift. But if you don't care about things like UI, if you don't care about things like the look and the feel, if you only care about the feature in terms of it working, then this may be a very viable path for you. But if you have created a very well-defined design specification, and you're in the loop to say, hey, at this point, I want to check in to see if things are as I expect them to be. And if they're not, I have to course correct. That's how you manage to avoid drift in that case. Did that answer your question?
I think so. What you're saying is you're sort of interrupting the agent
Yes.
to make sure that it's not going down the wrong way.
Yeah. And I think this is not something that we're going to have to continue to do. It's something at this point in time that we have to do. Just because of where we are. Like, there are plenty of cases, and many of us here at Improving will build things and we'll create a very well-defined specification. And at the end of this process, it's basically what we wanted. We may have some, opinions about implementation or whatever, but I think we're largely growing away from that in terms of caring about syntax, caring about what library you decided to build something in, or even caring about performance. Most of us are walking around with phones that can handle really unperformant operations and handle them pretty well. So performance is not even something that many people will care about in the way that we did yesterday. Any other questions?
Have you considered using model context protocol or MCP to mitigate the token costs? And also you can have less human in the loop interactions if you have a rerouter as an agent.
So I use MCP tools extensively. One of my favorite being Context 7, if you're familiar. So this is if you are building and your agent needs access or context about a library that the training doesn't cover. Or it needs the most up-to-date documentation because there's a new version that has been released. Context 7 has you covered. Because there are many times where you'll say, hey, I'm using this library, I want you to implement this feature, and it will install an older version, because that's the version that it has in its training data. But it's versions behind. So if you want to have the latest version, the documentation for it, you use Context 7. So that's one that I really care about and use a whole lot. But in terms of removing myself from the loop, there are places where I want to be and places where I don't. So
what is Context 7?
Context 7 is basically a docs MCP, documentation. So if you, without Context 7, and without tool use, like the internet, for example, if you want to introduce a new library, and you want it to implement some feature that this library does, it won't know how. It can maybe do some introspection and may be able to look through the node modules and say, hey, this is what it can do and reason about how to do it. But if you have the latest documentation, it will know how to do it because it's well documented. So that's what Context 7 helps us with. But that's just one example. But I am not, at this point in time, all that interested in moving myself completely from the loop. I like to check in. I like to see where the application is. I like to, even in post, after it's done the job, I will do another step, a final step, where it's like, hey, check this against the UI, UX documentation that I built out to see if it's drifted from it, if it's in alignment with it. And if it's not, then there's some follow-up documentation that must
Would you
happen.
consider that to be a data validation agent?
It is a it is a user experience UI data. I mean, data validation. It's validation. This is like an auditing process. Did you follow what I instructed you to follow? And if not, then maybe this is a gap in documentation. This is an opportunity. Is how I look at it. Not necessarily a failure of the model, but an opportunity to improve the process. Any other questions? This is not a replacement for your thinking. This is an amplifier of it. What are you not looking at? That is my presentation. I can demo this a little bit, but any questions? Any discussion? Yes, Caleb.
When do you plan on, or do you plan on fully releasing it?
I do plan on fully releasing it. It will be in some app store soon. I know it's very vague, but there is a process. Like you know, like you release.
Right.
You're a person who builds in public.
Right.
I'm trying to get like you. But there is a review process when it comes to Apple. So I have kicked off this process. Like everything is in place. Like I have the developer account, for example, for both Apple and Google. Google will lag behind in terms of me being able to release to the Play Store because I don't have an Android device to test with.
Right.
So that's one of
I
the
volunteer to test, just letting you know.
Thank you. So
You have an Android to test Android.
Exactly. How can people?
simulator.
The simulator?
that is fair, but before I put something in the wild that people are going to be using on their devices, I do want to have a physical device. But that is an option, using the simulator, yes.
How can people stay up to date with where this product is?
I would say LinkedIn.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to have more of a Ponderare presence on LinkedIn. I have been building in public, and Claudio, anytime I go a month without blogging, he's going to, hey, slap me on the hand. Where's the blog post?
Anybody home?
Yes. So, and I said that to say, one of the things like that I always mention in the circle is having accountability partners. It's something I need, and it's something, of course, we all want to be better at being self-starters and doing the thing that we say that we want to do, but it's always good to be in community with people that do hold you accountable, and that's what I value about being in spaces like this. Questions?
So, my bad. Are you going to show the demo?
I can,
Yeah, let's demo it. Also, let's give them a huge round of applause.
Alright, so live demos are always tricky. As device and close things that I'm not using.
You're a brave man, doing it live.
Yeah.
Your laptop will have to first update itself.
Exactly.
You know how it goes.
As it does.
Share. Shares. Share the audio. And if all goes well, you should see my screen. There it is. This is the app. You're met with a welcome back screen if you've already been a user. It mentions when my last recording was, which was today, actually at midnight. I was talking about how this is the last day before my talk. So continue with Apple and continue with Google do work, but I'm old school. I actually built a test account, but I'm not using it. This is my actual account with my personal information, so there are some areas I may not be able to scroll to.
Wow, you are very brave.
I want to take the most authentic experience.
Talk about being vulnerable.
Yeah. Back to church, a sign of steady recovery. This is one of the insights. And I work at a church on Sundays. I am one of the sound people. I'm on the production team. And my daughter, she's in elementary. And kids, when they're that age, bring home sicknesses. And to us, she brought home the flu. We we were sick for like, we were sick for like 2 weeks. There were days I couldn't come to work, but my return to church was great. Seeing people that I didn't get to see for weeks. And let's see what it says. Your return to church on Sunday and note that you're feeling better signals the gentle recovery arc and re-engagement with routine activities that matter to you.
Can you go back real quick?
Yes, sir.
These things at the bottom, I can't see. I can't really see from here, but what are these?
Here. So this is the number of recordings in the past 31 days.
Okay.
17 out of 31. 275 is representative of the total minutes that I recorded in the application. And each, the average length of the recordings are about 2 minutes. I have a weekly letter. So this is comprised of the week of February 21st to 28th. So all of the recordings that I made, every week there's a letter about some of the things that it notices based on my recordings. I won't bore you with the details, but this is what it looks
We're
like.
interested.
I'll get with you, Agnes.
We have some nosier members here.
I think that was the August last time before.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Just about midnight last night. And this is the record screen. And
Did you have all these feature ideas sort of mapped out before, or was it like an iterative process?
this is like very organic. Like, I'd be like, what do I want? What do I want? And that's the best thing about side projects in the age of AI. Like, even if you're not a technical person, I think you're a better fit for AI, because people who are technical know where their lines are, they know where their limits are, and they do things like say, well, I know this is not possible and here's why. And this is not always the truth, but people who are not technical won't limit themselves in that way, and I think this is why, like, the next best or better ideas are gonna come from people who are like designers, for example, people who don't live in the code, people who have really grand ideas and know like mental limitations on why they can't come into fruition. So when you open the app, you met with 2 modes. Oh, when you open the record screen, you met with quick mode and deep mode. Here's deep. There's a little cool animation that happens. I didn't plan that out.
Looks great.
This is for longer recordings. So quick is when I want to get an idea out, and it actually like counts down from counts up to 30 seconds. And this is for me and like my own fluency in getting an idea out quickly. I want to do it in 30 seconds. So that's the only reason that feature existed, instead of just having one record mode where you can record as long as you want to. You hit the button. This may not work because I'm screen sharing, so I'm not gonna try it. But something to sit with. These are some ideas that you might want to start with. What would you tell yourself about your past self, about where you are now, for example? And you record about that, and it will give you some insights. I have an Ask My Journal feature. And this feature is one of the harder hitting for me, because when you journal so much, especially from different moods, just being a human being, at least this is not the way I think, I don't remember everything that I've recorded. And I don't necessarily go back to revisit all of the past recordings. So I'll ask my journal, and I'll do this live, which is even more dangerous. What have I been thinking about over the past week?
So is it better for you to type it or just talking?
I could have talked it, but because I'm sharing, it won't allow me to record my voice.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, I would do that.
Okay, cool.
I was about to say it's ironic. It makes sense in context.
So yeah, that's one of the constraints about doing it this way. Deep search in progress. So it is searching through all of the entries that I've shared. And it's limiting the scope to this past week. So it's reading entry details, searching thoughts, reflections. It's read 4 entries, 5 entries.
So you're using notebook, you said? Notebook?
No. This piece of the application, this Ask My Journal feature, is powered by Anthropic's Claude 4 or 5.
Okay.
So over the past week, the line has been circling around two main currents: the anticipation of your Ponderare talk and some deeper questions about automation and the future of work. The Ponderare launch has been occupying a lot of mental space. You're excited but not nervous, which feels right since you live with this project daily. And it's true. What's interesting is how your focus has shifted from just showcasing what you built to telling the story of how you built it, which is what I'm doing right now. You keep coming back to this idea that if you can believe it, you can achieve it. It isn't just a talk anymore. It's genuinely more accessible now. There's this builder's pride coming through, especially in that Sunday entry where you gave yourself credit for creating something end-to-end without external developer help. I built this application, like, it's my girlfriend and I, but she's not a developer. She's not technical, so it's really been me and Claude, of course, like doing all of the heavy lifting in terms of development. The automation question came up during those manual deploy processes at work. I am on pager duty this week, and a lot of the processes are manual. We literally follow a Google Sheet document that lists out step by step what we need to do this deployment. And I'm like, how could we automate this process? And I've been thinking about that, and I've been thinking about it out loud in the journal world. You spend time in the car, because I record in the car as well, about thinking about how much of what humans do could be automated, and it led you down this path about the future of work in an AI world. The way you framed it, jobs being replaced, not just displaced, shows you're thinking beyond the immediate technical question to the broader societal implications. There's also this thread about being more intentional with your thoughts. That interview with Eileen Wu really struck you. She's in Olympus, and young lady, heavily decorated. She is a ice skater, very talented, and she was asked a question in some interview about whether she thinks before answering questions. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah.
And without hesitation, she just goes in. And she talks about the way that she thinks, and she talks about her inner world and how she plays with her thoughts, and how she understood early on that if you can control your thoughts, you can control your behavior. And it really struck me seeing that from such a young person. I was born in the 1900s, so
I ain't gonna say it like that.
yeah.
No.
We had a question here. Sorry, real quick, we had a question over there for a while ago.
Yes, sir.
Is all this on device?
This is all on device, yes. Yes,
So it's running inference on your iPhone?
No, it's not running inference on my iPhone, sir. No.
Okay.
This is only,
You should
I mean, the phones are really decent now, but I'm not running local model. At least not in this app. I do run local models, but that's a separate conversation.
So there's still parts that are processed?
Yes. So that part of it is processed offsite. Yes, sir.
No, I was saying something that inspired me about that particular interview is she was saying that because of the availability and the breadth of knowledge, she's just curious about everything.
Yes.
And she wants to be someone her younger self aspires to be.
Oh, she says that's the biggest flex.
Yeah. She's like,
Yes.
my younger self would think me right now is the coolest person ever or something.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
And I thought that was inspiring to hear someone speak of their own selves like that, because I mean, growing up, I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana, and it's a really, it's a small place. Even now, my world is still small. I've just structured things that way. I don't see a lot of people. This is probably the most people I'll see this month at one time, other than the fire drill this morning.
It was not a drill.
It wasn't a drill. Somebody pulled the fire alarm upstairs.
Well, was there a fire? Or
There was not a fire. I don't know.
might still be a fire drill.
Somewhere between the drill and the fire department showed up. Nice big truck, etc. But this process, I lost my spot. I'm sorry. So I'll just continue. Recovery from being sick, I mentioned that. Bookends the week, but even while you were getting better, your mind stayed busy with these bigger questions about building, automation, intentional thinking. It's like your maker's impatience kept pushing through, even when your body needed rest. So all of these things, yes, sir.
You're saying it's not there, right? But it seems like it is almost.
I mean,
almost. This is like
Yeah, it's like pre there.
If this is like the chewing and the therapist is like the stomach.
Yeah.
You know, digestion.
Right.
You know, like this is something you bring to your therapist. Like, hey, what do you think of this?
So, absolutely.
Yeah.
One, and how are we doing on time, Danyal?
I think we can do maybe a few more questions, maybe two more.
So I am in therapy every other week. And one of the things about therapy is it does require a vulnerability. And it requires you to come to the party willing to share. The therapist has no way of sussing out things that you aren't willing to share. Not in a clear way, like therapists do have a sense. Like they know if you're being evasive, for example, which was one of the things that plagued my earlier sessions. I was very evasive in earlier therapy sessions. And I thought I was hiding it well, and I was not. My therapist caught on to it really quickly. But when it comes to journaling here, it is, there isn't the fear of talking to another person or this person judging you about what you're sharing. So even after you've, gotten these insights and it's telling your story, quoting you even, for example, I can, for any one of these, for anything that's here, there are sources attached. So we can, minimize the risk of hallucinations, for example. But it's all here. Now, if I want to take this to therapy, I am still ultimately the person that's deciding what I want to share in those sessions, which is either good or bad, because maybe there's some things that are uncovered that you don't want to share, things that are surfaced that you find painful, and you don't want to discuss that in the session yet, because saying it to another person may make it real. But this is why that's not therapy. This is a little more intimate because you're sharing things here that maybe don't make it into the session. But not therapy, because this isn't helping you process the thoughts. This is only a mirror surfacing them. Yes.
And it can't actually offer any tools to cope with what it
Yeah, and I intentionally avoided that kind of thing. I don't want to get in that area because maybe I would struggle. Well, I mean, I know my lane, and I also know that like once you get to that space, there is a more difficult time getting it approved in the actual
regulation.
Regulations, etc. Please continue. Go ahead.
So speaking directly on this subject,
Yes.
I've worked in healthcare AI for about 10 years. So
Yes, sir.
my alarm bells are going off, and this is not to throw shade. It's more a question.
Hey, please throw shade if you got it.
Well, okay. So chatbots were literally first invented to help with therapy.
Okay.
At MIT, their first project, it was called ELISA. It was actually supposed to be a send-off of psychology, but people who used it gave the very same responses that you provided, which is it's private. I don't feel like I'm being chastised or watched, and that was rules-based. It was really simple compared to what we're having now.
Deterministic.
Yeah, but everybody. Okay, I'll get to the point. We know everybody's using these retail LLMs both for free and paid to discuss sensitive things they don't want to talk to people about, or things they do not have access to. Not everyone can afford a therapist. Not everyone feels comfortable talking with their loved ones, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely.
So, how do you feel about letting Anthropic train its models on all of your responses?
I found a comfort with it.
Okay.
Yes. So, and I will push back to say that is not throwing shade. That is a very, very valid concern. Like we're using these frontier models to process some of our most intimate thoughts, and we don't know what happens on the other end of it. But because of the value that I get out of it, not valuing like training on people's personal data, but the value of me being able to work through some of my thoughts, me being able to surface things about myself that aren't necessarily readily available, in terms of me being able to see it clearly, it is a price that I am willing to pay. That is not a very sufficient answer for that kind of privacy concern, but it is a price that I am willing to pay.
Would it be too burdensome to make the app HIPAA compliant in some way?
Where we anonymize data, for example, Absolutely.
Yeah.
It will not. No.
But also from Anthropic to have, like, for example, an enterprise API key, which so that it's an enclave. They can't train
Yes.
the model on your responses. So if somebody, you're saying to them, it's not medical, it's not for therapy, don't
Correct.
say things. However, we know this happens in practice.
Yeah.
Is it burdensome, like as a developer, you think, to instantiate that, to pay for those fees on the client's end, or is it just a matter of I want to take that direction and I will?
That is something I would like to explore. Would it be burdensome? I don't think so. Maybe in terms of like documents that I have to fill out, or information that has to be provided, or guarantees that Anthropic expects from me, for example.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that's burdensome, especially if it comes with the added privacy layer. So it is something I'm willing to explore.
So with
Thank
that,
you for being open to.
it would
Of
probably
course.
be.
I have to. We're talking about it now, but I'm asking people to share their personal detail. Go ahead.
So it would probably be paid then, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
so there are big, I mean, even if we weren't processing private data,
Mhm.
I am leveraging these LLMs, which cost me money.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
especially using 4.6.
well, yeah.
Mr.
So,
High Roller.
I do want to share in the costs because I am shouldering the majority of the burden as it relates to, the API costs. Any other questions?
Do you notice a substantial difference between 4.5 and 4.6?
So to process these, I'm actually using Sonnet 4. I'm not even using 4.5 or 4.6, and it's mostly because of costs, which is another great thing about building your own things. You get to give it the pool of money that you want. I mean, just like you guys, as people who are building on your own, you can say, hey, I want to use the latest and greatest, and I am willing to incur the costs that come along with using these models. And that's perfectly fine. But in development, absolutely. But I did like these control tests in my own environment, giving each of the models the same prompts. Giving them access to my personal journal entries and saying surface insights based on them from each of the models. And I weighed the outputs. And I'm like, yo, I could get away with using Sonnet 4, and it's just fine.
All right, guys, we got room for one more question. One more. Okay, I have a question.
Get a question.
Hi, wait, where?
You can ask.
Oh, I'll go first and then you can go. I feel like I deserve that. It looks pretty ready to me. Why is it not launched?
It's not launched because of a me problem. This is me in the pursuit of this pseudo perfection. This is me like I've released apps in the wild on other people's behalf, like for years and years and years. Like I've been through the song and dance of getting the reviews from the App Store, getting the responses, the rejections, etc., and the successes that come with that. But this is my first time building something on my own that my name is attached to, and that once it's in the wild, you can't take the cat's out of the bag or whatever. But that's really what it is. But I've committed to releasing this into the wild this week.
This week?
Yeah.
Ooh, very nice.
I guess no church on Sunday.
I'm gonna be at church, but I gotta run the
You'll be
audio.
releasing your app.
Yeah, but I actually planned to release it tonight. It was supposed to be available for people to download during this meeting, but the review process, etc. But
Everyone should connect with you on LinkedIn, though.
yeah, I will make an official blog post where I talk in more depth about this, and of course, I'm willing to answer more questions. Like the question that the gentleman here asked tonight, I expect to get a whole lot more of that, and I have to be prepared to answer them.
Where are the blog posts published again?
They're going to be on LinkedIn, and
Okay.
well, mostly they're going to be on Substack. But You
Okay.
can find my Substack through LinkedIn.
Okay, just through your Matt Wright LinkedIn profile?
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
have like a special LinkedIn yet.
Yeah.
Maybe soon come.
Yeah.
So we had one last question over here.
Yes, sir.
So in the process that you described, your app is recording voice and then transcribing.
Yes.
So in that transcription, does it take into account how the inflection of the voice changes when the topic changes? Because if I'm talking about something heavy, not only will the duration between words get longer, but the confidence in my voice, by the way I throw it, should also change, and that becomes an indicator to someone who's actually listening
Yes.
versus a transcription.
This is a very good question. And I am using, if you're familiar, a tool called DeepGram Nova 3 to handle the transcriptions. Because it does like sentiment analysis. It knows like the distance of time between the words that are spoken. And it can, you know, make some inferences based on that information. So it can. Yeah.
That's scary.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Matt. Thank you again.
Thank all of you for listening to me ramble for an hour.
That was not a ramble.
That was a very structured ramble.
If he's rambling, then I don't know what I'm doing.
Fine.
That was a great presentation. Thank you. All right. Cool. See if I can share again. All right, we are back. Thank you again, Matt. That was incredible.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Matt has been a longtime member and SPS photographer. So the photo quality may be shit this time. That's my fault. Okay, so real quick before we move on to the next part, I like to take a selfie just to document that I was here. So everyone, be ready. You may be a small speck in the background, but I'm going to try my best. Right, I think I got everyone. You look happy. Awesome. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. All right. Real quick, our next meeting is on Thursday, April 2nd. We meet on the first Thursday of every month. We've been doing that very consistently, so hopefully see a few of you guys back here. We have Claudio, who will be our guest speaker next time. So
come back!
Claudio knows exactly who's in this room right now. So
that's right. We have a photo. That explains the phow.
He asked me to take the photo for that reason. Yeah, so go ahead and RSVP if you guys would like, and I'll see you guys next month. And what we're about to do right now, if this is your first time, maybe this will be a little bit of a shock. You've been here before, you know the drill. We are all about to stand up and form